Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Go With Your Gut podcast. I am your host, Lauren Dreyer, and I am happy to be back with you. I have been gone a couple of weeks. I went on a vacation and I did not have really any service or anything to be able to do a podcast or record one. So here I am. I'm back. Happy to be here. And today we are going to talk about letting go of control because it's been a theme for me lately, as well as a theme for a lot of the people that I've had some conversations with. Um, I kind of laugh as I don't know if you've ever noticed this in any of the podcasts I do, but typically the things that I end up talking about are the things that are very much going on in my life and that I'm talking to people about. And my goal is to make this a kind of daily thing, to listen to whenever, but I like to be able to share with you what I'm going through, what I'm dealing with in hopes that it, helps you to do the same thing. So, letting go of control is where we're at today. And let's be honest, most of us want control of things, life, whatever we can, right? Because we can control the outcome. Um, we can control, we want to be able to control what's going to happen because that way we already know. But that's not the case a lot of times. We have no control over the future or what's going to happen that day or things or people. We don't have any control over that. And that's really hard to get a grasp on because that's like a lot of things. It's like everything that we deal with on a daily basis. And there are things, yes, that we can control some things, or we can take action on some things and we have control over some aspects of things. But typically we don't have control over a whole lot. But the things that we do have control over are our reactions, how we treat people, how we treat ourselves. And well, that's about it. We don't have any control over situations, people, what people think, what people say, what people do, even though we'd like to. But we don't have a whole lot. And people tell me sometimes to chill out or that maybe I worry too much, which is true. I'll be the first one to admit that. I have always been a worrier because I want to be able to control the outcome, or I want to be able to more of prepare myself for the outcome and be prepared so that when something happens, I'm able to deal with it the best way possible. But there are some things that you just can't prepare for. And all of those things were true as I just went on vacation. I went internationally and I went on a cruise to where I had very little control. I didn't have pretty much internet. I logged on for a couple minutes, but it was still spotty and I couldn't really get anything. Um, but because I was on a cruise ship, very far from home, I had very little control over what happened at home, what happened in um, any other personal things I'm doing, business, or anything to do with work. And I knew, obviously, that this was going to be the case as I left, but there's only so much you can do. So my couple weeks leading up to vacation were obviously, how can I set my team up for the best outcome ever? How can I set my kids up to be able to have what they need, including anything they may need for an emergency? Um, I attempted to set up anything that I needed to get done to work on, maybe while I was gone, or for people to handle while I was gone, or knowing that I was going to have to hit the ground running the minute I got back on some things, which was fine. I knew that that was the case, and so did those people that I would needed to work with, and so it was not a big deal. But let me tell you, um, there were a lot of things that happened um, all over the place, and this cruise, I swear, had to have been meant to say, Lauren, we're going to force you to let go of control if you won't do it willingly, or whatever. But we all know what's going on with airlines and flights right now, and seeing as how I was flying internationally, some of my flights were very, very scattered, and I already knew, obviously, my flight schedule going into it. I wasn't thrilled about it because it was a really rigorous flight schedule and it was exhausting. I took some red eyes for the first time ever, and that was interesting to say the least. But my flights were scattered all over, but I couldn't really control that. So I did what I could to make the best of the situations and say, okay, how am I going to utilize my time here? Or how am I going to just enjoy my time to be able to disconnect? A lot of things happened at home while I was away that I couldn't control. We had some family things happen. And none of it would have been expected before we left, but it all happened. And I was at the point where I had set everybody up for success enough before we left that they were able to handle what happened. But, I'm sitting on a cruise ship getting messages and notifications of all these things happening. And all I could say was, okay, I guess they'll figure it out because there's not anything I can do about it sitting out here. Even if I could get off the ship and, go jump on a plane or anything like that, there was nothing I could do about it immediately except for let it be handled by somebody else or let it fizzle out. And it was a very good thing for me. But I also knew going in that there was a lot of things that could potentially happen in business and in work. And again, I set myself up and everybody else up the best I could. But at the end of the day, it's, that things are going to happen when you leave that, you probably don't want to, but what can you do about it? Everybody is going to handle it for you the best that they can. And I just had to go into it knowing, yeah, I've set everybody up for success the best that I possibly can. And the rest I can't control. So I came home after basically a week and a half or so, and knowing I was coming back to some things, and I was really nervous about some of the things that I was going to come back to. Some things it just didn't matter. And I was kind of like, well, you deal with it when you figure out what needs to happen, and then you go with it. But what else can you do? Because literally there was nothing I could do except for maybe talk somebody through something on a quick phone call. But other than that, I couldn't just fly back or get back really quick. And some things I didn't necessarily need to. But my point being, were things all still in the air when I left? Yes, absolutely. Did other things obviously continue to develop and continue to fall into place? Absolutely. And, I've started to remind myself quite frequently that I'll ask, okay, Lauren, can you control this? If yes, if there's something that I need to take control of, I take action on it and I get it done, and then it is what it is. If I can't control it, I remind myself that, okay, then there's not really anything I need to be concerned or worried about, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens after it plays out or fizzles out, because there's really no point in worrying. And yes, I know that that's either easier said than done, but either way, there's nothing I could do. So you either deal with it or somehow teach yourself to quit worrying. And some of that is just reframing your mind and getting into the habit of knowing, I'm going to stop worrying about this, and asking yourself maybe a whole bunch of times a day, can I control this? And if the answer is no, then allow yourself to, I don't know, be at peace, be okay, and move on with your life. Ask yourself when something happens, is it something that just needs to play out? Maybe you can do something about it. Maybe you can make a call, or send an email, or have a conversation about whatever it is. But sometimes it's better when you just say, you know what? I have probably done all the things that I needed to do. I'm just going to let this play out as it needs to and see where the chips fall. Because sometimes when you keep trying to force things and you keep trying to force control, it ends up doing more damage than it would have been had you just stayed still, stayed quiet, and gone about your business knowing that things will happen as they will, and they'll happen as they need to. And if something comes back to you that you need to deal with, you can deal with it at that time. But life keeps throwing things at us, no matter what. And something that I have learned, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, that the more I try to control things, the more worked up, upset, whatever else that I am. And it takes so much time and energy to be those things. And some of the time we don't even know we do it. I am 100% guilty of that sometimes, but other times we kind of give into it and we just let ourselves stew in that worry, and that forms the habit of worrying, and worrying too much to the point that it causes anxiety. Guilty, absolutely. But have you ever noticed that when there's something and you're in a season of life and there's something that you need to learn, you won't get out of that season of life until you learn that thing, whether it's something that you're hesitant or not. And that's kind of what happened to me with this cruise. There was a lot of things that happened around the cruise as well, not just on it. And I thought, okay, there's a big reason that I need to be on this cruise. And that was ultimately one of them, because, as I said, it forced me to give up control over things and just be like, okay, I've got to let it happen and quit letting some things bother me. And that was a great thing for me to do. And it was a great thing for me to kind of learn, and to have to sit in that and just say, what am I going to do about it here? I can't do anything about it here. It'll get taken care of by whoever needs to take care of it. But I think we resist the life lessons so much sometimes, and eventually something will happen to where life will force you to learn how to do it. And you don't get to move on until you're like, okay, here we go. I will finally let go and I will do this. And the bad part is that if you're like me, you're like, hey, I am a doer. I am an action taker. So I want to do things and I want to take action on them so that it'll happen quickly. Well, unfortunately, things don't always happen or generally happen on our timeline. Of course, we would like things to happen quickly because we want quick results, and some of us need to learn more patience than others. But think about the fact that sometimes maybe the world is trying to teach you patience a little bit, and some things just need to happen in order for things to fall into place for you. And that's a really, really hard lesson to learn. And let's be honest, sometimes we got to learn it a few times, if not more. But think about times when you've got so much going and so much just seems chaotic and out of control. And then all of a sudden, you just get taken out, and whether that be you leave or you're forced to leave, or maybe you get sick and you literally can't control anything going on around you, or you can't control what's going on within you. Maybe that's, God, world, spirit, whatever, telling you, okay, if you're not going to learn this lesson, I will force you and I will teach you against your will, against your wishes. But you're going to figure out how to learn it because you need to learn it to get to the next stage of life, which is coming, whether you like it or not. So when you're going through these things and when you're trying to control all the situations, as I always say, think down and feel it in your gut a little bit. Is this something that you can control, or is it something that you need to control? And if not, let it go. Let it play out. Let it do what it needs to do. And let that weight come off of you, because the more energy that you give this kind of stuff that you can't do anything about, the more energy you're wasting putting into these things that you could be putting into something else that is drastically more productive of your time. Maybe a different project, or maybe people, maybe your family, whatever that looks like. So I urge you to think about what's in your life that you're attempting to control, that maybe you shouldn't be. Maybe you're trying to force it and it's going to do more damage than just letting it be. And think about what's happened in your life that's like, okay, I had no control over this. This happened and I had to go deal with it. But it took me out of the situation to the point where I couldn't handle any of that other stuff because I had to be here. The world forces you to learn to let go of control for our own good so that we can learn how to do that for the next season, in which you're probably not going to have control over a lot of stuff. So learn how to not have control and learn how to just let go and let things be. I hope this was helpful. I hope I was able to shift some mindsets, shift some perspectives, and hopefully that breathe some positivity and some energy into some of you who needed to hear that as much as I needed to experience it.